You know, guys, every single year in Call of Duty, we always come across what we call the Call of Duty cycle, where every single time we're in the middle of a trash garbage game, like MW2 for instance, a lot of people tend to look back at the previous CODs, especially the more recent ones. So if we're talking about MW2, then a lot of people will go back to Vanguard and say something like, oh, you know, that game wasn't actually that bad, or I miss the times of Vanguard compared to Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2. But as we know, Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 isn't doing too hot, okay? I don't need to prove to you guys that this game is not performing well. I've shown evidence time and time again, so Gooch Lickers, I'm sorry. No evidence this time, just imagine it with the one remaining brain cell you have left. And now, just like every single other year, it seems like people are beginning to look at Vanguard from last year and talk about how good of a game that game was. I made a video very similar to this last year in Vanguard where I compared Cold War and Vanguard. It was called the Battle of the Trash. And if you ever saw that video, then expect today's video to be something like a cousin to that video, or like a sequel to that video. Because here on the channel, guys, the Scatmaster does not take sides. I don't play sides on which game is better, which game is worse. If you guys want my true honest opinion, and I'll keep this solidified all the time, it's always going to be consistently this. Any title you talk about in the dark ages of COD between MW 2019 and the present day, I think absolutely every single one of them is trash. It's fucking bad, okay? I'm sorry. At least I'm consistent and these opinions do not change, okay? But for other people, these opinions do change. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because a couple of days ago, there was a YouTuber by the name of Exoghost, and I'm a little familiar with him. You know, we don't have any beef at all, so I hope if Exoghost ever sees this video, don't think I'm coming after you. I'm not doing that. But you did spark all of this, and it's kind of impressive too because you got 4.2 million views on this. COD Vanguard is underrated. Why did people hate it? This game is fun. Now, before people ask, no, I don't need to send them to the gulag for this. This take is constantly said every single year, but this time Exoghost started it quite early, and I just need to be upfront. I highly disagree. It's one thing to say Vanguard is better than MW2, which is not true, and it's one thing to say MW2 is better than Vanguard, which is also not true, but to say COD Vanguard is underrated is something that I simply disagree with. That game was absolutely hideously atrocious. The reason why people think that Vanguard is better than MW2 or that it's underrated is because nowadays in MW2, some of the luxuries that we had in Vanguard are no longer present. And I'll talk about that in just a second, but just to show you guys how much monkey shit was being flung across the timeline on Twitter because of this, there were a lot of mixed reactions to this take. Now, this first one comes from the Ghost of Hope. He says, nothing wrong with saying it's underrated or it's fun, but adding in why did people hate is where the COD cycle, as people like to call it, comes in. And for the most part, I do agree with this. It's just, again, you guys know my personal thoughts on Vanguard and on Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2. I think both of them are trash, okay? This take is going to be very consistent throughout this video. But the next tweet actually comes in from Doug Dimmadome Warzone. You know Call of Duty is down bad when people start praising Vanguard. The COD cycle is inescapable, but it seems like the praise previous game part has started earlier and earlier with every passing year. Although I do agree that Call of Duty is just more shit year after year, and that's why people start looking to the previous years, it also needs to be said that the COD cycle actually begins before the start of the new game. Not after it's almost over, but before. Guys, do we not remember before Vanguard even came out, Doug Dimmadome Warzone and so many other content creators were coming out here saying Vanguard was going to be a top 5 COD. Okay, the COD cycle is not just praising the previous game, the COD cycle is also looking forward to the next game before it's come out and overhyping it. So keep that in mind when I start giving my input on this entire Vanguard versus Modern Warfare 2 discussion. I want to ask you guys the question right now. Which one do you think is better? Which one do you think is worse? Or would you like to join the good side and say both are shit. Either way, we gotta talk about both. So when it comes to Vanguard, guys, I think it is one of the worst, if not the worst, Call of Duty of all time in terms of enjoyability, replayability factor, fun, quality, in terms of post-launch content. It's one of the worst COD titles of all time. And when you talk about MW2, you guys have heard my take on this as well. I think it is the worst Call of Duty of all time, not in terms of gameplay, not in terms of its quality, but in terms of content flow, in terms of how Infinity Ward have handled this game. Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 is also the worst Call of Duty of all time. Guys, two things can be true at the same time, okay? Both of these games are god-awful in their own ways that have both earned them spots at the very bottom of the barrel in terms of Call of Duty products. And to the people who want to throw at me, hey, what about COD Ghost or Advanced Warfare or Infinite Warfare or MW 2019? Guys, trust me, in the Scatmasters world, the bottom of the barrel fits many. Some of them a little higher than others, but for the most part, these recent CODs in the dark ages of COD are all in the fucking abyss, in the pit of dog shit. But there are some things that Vanguard has done better than MW2, and some things that MW2 has done better than Vanguard. Does that change the outcome in the long run? No, they're both still dog shit, I'm sorry. But it is worth mentioning. So, just to pivot back to the original tweet by Exoghost, he was talking about how Vanguard is underrated. Now, although I disagree with that take completely and entirely, it also needs to be said that there is one thing I agree with. And I know a lot of people are gonna give me shit for this, but just remember what my overall take is that both of the games are still monkey shit at the fucking bottom of the barrel. They suck. Vanguard, in my opinion at least, has much better movement than MW2. It has and had a lot more content post-launch and at launch than MW2. Vanguard launched with 16 maps. Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 launched with 9 maps, and one of the maps got taken out due to copyright issues, so 8 maps. Vanguard was developed by Sledgehammer Games. Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 was developed by Infinity Ward with 3,000 devs, all development studios on board, the highest budget in the franchise, and only came out with half the maps. How does that make sense? And this part is really the dagger that makes me side a little bit with the Vanguard people as opposed to the Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 people. Although people don't really talk about this because it's not a gameplay thing, it's actually the developers themselves. Sledgehammer fucking sucks, okay? We're not gonna deny that. But before the game came out, people were up in arms about the red dots and Ninja as a perk, and what did Sledgehammer do? They actually listened to our feedback and gave us red dots on the minimap through a perk at the very least, and they gave us the Ninja perk along with the Dead Silence field upgrade. And personally speaking, this made a game mode like Search and Destroy just much better. It made the flow of the game much better, a lot faster, and that's what I personally like in a Call of Duty game. Now that doesn't take away from the fact that Vanguard absolutely dropped the ball post-launch, and absolutely everything seemed to just get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse from there. But it must be said, at least from an arcade enjoyability perspective, Sledgehammer seemingly did the right thing at least before launch. As opposed to a game like Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2, something like Red Dots and Dead Silence as a perk would actually make this game top tier in my opinion. Not only did Infinity Ward ignore us for the first portion of this, but eventually they started giving us bullshit excuses. You guys have heard me talk about this all the time. Oh, red dots don't belong in the game because they make the gameplay worse. How the fuck are we supposed to know that? I'm not gonna get into it again, guys. I'm gonna get too heated, but it must be said, Infinity Ward really fucked up there in my opinion. Not to mention, it had way less content at launch, and even at this point in time right now, a game that is supposed to have been supported for 2 years straight and then chalked up to just 1 year because of Activision's switch in plans, we are nearing Season 3 Reloaded, and back in Vanguard by that point in time, we had 22 to 24 multiplayer 6v6 maps. Now, don't get it twisted, a lot of those maps were not good, but at least there was a variety. Here in Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2, we launched with 8 maps, so at this point in time, Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 has had about 15 6v6 multiplayer maps. I am counting actual solidified multiplayer 6v6 content. Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 has done something exponentially better than Vanguard, which is simply the gunplay, the audio. I think the SR ranked play gameplay system is a little bit better in MW2 than it is in Vanguard, but for both of those, we don't credit Sledgehammer or Infinity Ward, that's Treyarch. But in terms of like an actual modern feeling game, I think I would go with MW2 in that case, but again, that doesn't take away from the fact that this game is absolute dog shit. So even when I'm giving slight praise to either side, just remember, it's like I'm looking for a tiny shard of gold inside a pile of dog shit. So guys, where does that leave me? Here's the reality, guys. Vanguard is still the first Call of Duty that I have ever quit in my entire life before the life cycle was over. That is a fact. And that makes that game undeniably dog shit, one of the worst Call of Duties of all time. But like I said earlier, guys, two things can be true at the same time. And as much as that's true, don't forget, not only was Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 overhyped before it came out, don't forget how much crap went into this game that it was supposed to make it the best Call of Duty of all time, right? It was supposed to be the most advanced Call of Duty of all time. It was the highest selling Call of Duty of all time. It was the fastest selling Call of Duty of all time. It got the most money in its first week of all time. 3,000 developers, all development studios on board, highest budget for the game, 3 years of development, and it's branching off of MW 2019, which was also highly successful for no fucking reason, by the way. And on top of that, we're nostalgia baiting with the Modern Warfare 2 name. So side by side, Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 is supposed to be leagues and leagues above a game like Vanguard. But when we look at the facts, guys, that's simply not the case. We've talked about it in my previous videos. If you haven't seen it, go check them out. But Modern Warfare 2019 is not exactly where it should be, considering everything that was put into it before the game came out. Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 is also the worst Call of Duty of all time. Guys, this opinion will not change. I don't care what COD cycle you think I'm being flung into. I don't care what copium you think I'm on. Guys, both of these games are complete and utter dog shit. My opinion will never change. It doesn't matter how much nostalgia you think I'm talking about, rose-tinted glasses and all this stupid shit. The COD cycle does not affect the Scatmaster in the slightest. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. I know I made a poll about this, but which game do you think is better or worse? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with my newest videos. And yeah, guys, it's been the boy Fooly. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out of here. Toodles.
It's been a very long time since the weekend. It's been a very long time and I'm weak.